Good morning. Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the Millionaire Mindset Book Club. We are reading Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. And today, chapter 15, right? How to handle resistance and solve problems. It's interesting. My coaching call last night was about how to be a stronger decision maker. Sometimes I say it's funny, but I think it's I don't know. I don't know the exact word to use, but it is interesting that you can have these different things that come at you from different places that all fall into line, that all fall into place. So talking about decisions, the chapter today is about solving problems and handling resistance in other people's decisions, right? So Tony Robbins says that earlier in the book we learned how to model, right? Model other people's behavior, right? Successful. You want to be successful. Model successful people. So how to model, how to elicit decisive patterns of human actions, right? That produce desirable results. There's a little bit of persuasion there. How to direct your own actions to take control of your life, right? And the underlying idea behind all of this was that you didn't need to choose your behavior by trial and error. You can be successful by learning the most effective ways to run your brain, right? To use the most effective ways to run your brain, to think about things in a certain way, right? You cannot, however, direct the behavior of others with the same speed and certainty and effectiveness that you control your own results, right? Remember, we make choices, right? Everything we do in life is a choice, right? And then we have to deal with the consequences of those choices, right? Small decisions, small choices made consistently over time is what makes a positive result or a negative result. So in the first half of the book, the main focus, the key word of the first half of the book was modeling, right? Modeling excellence is crucial to learning how to do something faster than the whole trial and error thing. And he says, Tony Robbins says, if there is a key word for the second half of the book, it is flexibility, right? It is the one thing that communicators have in common is flexibility. They learn how to read an audience. They learn how to calibrate somebody, how to see how they think, right? How they, again, I keep going back to the DISC profile, right? Their personality types. And then they modify their behavior. I don't try to modify your behavior. I modify my own behavior, right? Either verbal or nonverbal, to help create what it is that I want, right? The only way to communicate well is to begin with a sense of humility and a willingness to change, right? If you think your way is the only way and then, my way or the highway kind of thing, you may find it a little more difficult to get things done. The only way to communicate well is to begin with a sense of humility and a willingness to change. You cannot communicate by force of will, right? I cannot force you to hear what I'm saying in the way that I think you should, right? I cannot bludgeon somebody into understanding my point of view. I can only communicate by constant, resourceful, attentive flexibility. Right? Remember, that was one of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the flexibility to change, the ability to see, to measure your actions, to see, is this working? Is this not working? And then the flexibility to change to something that works, right? And a lot of times flexibility doesn't come naturally, right? A lot of us, man, we're creatures of habit. We're going to do things this way. I'm a creature of habit, right? if I get off track of what it is, if I have my routine, and if I get out of order, sometimes I forget stuff. So checklists are my friend, right? The key to life is opening up as many different avenues as possible, trying as many doors, using as many different approaches as it takes to solve a problem, right? Being flexible, right? Being flexible. A lot of times people, you got to win, right? You got to knock somebody out in order to win. He says a lot of us think that settling a dispute is something along the lines of verbal boxing. You just pound those arguments until you get what you want. We see how well that works in politics, right? People get dug into their opinions, and they're not going to change their mind no matter what. You can give them all the evidence in the world that they are wrong, and they are not going to change. They're not going to change their mind because you want them to, right? So Tony Robbins says there is no such thing as resistance. There are only inflexible communicators who push at the wrong time and in the wrong direction. A good communicator, like an Aikido master, right? Like an Aikido master, instead of opposing somebody's view, is flexible and resourceful enough to sense the creation of resistance, find points of agreement, align himself with them, and then redirect communication in the way that they want it to go, right? As Grant Cardone says, always agree. When somebody has an objection, always agree, right? Well, that's expensive. Yes, it is. It is expensive, right? It's important for us to remember that certain words and phrases create resistance and problems. Benjamin Franklin described his strategy for communicating his opinion and yet maintaining rapport. He said, I developed a habit of expressing myself in terms of modest diffidence, never using when I advanced anything that might possibly be disputed the words certainly, undoubtedly, or any other that give the air of positiveness to an opinion. You tell somebody, well, obviously this is the way to go, right? But rather, he said things like, it appears to me, or I should not think it, or if I'm not mistaken. Chris Voss uses this in Never Split the Difference, right? In his discussions of negotiating, the same way, right? What do you call it? Is it accusation? No, it's not an accusation on it. It's saying, well, it seems to me, because then people, if they say, well, it's not, I didn't say it was, I just said it seemed that way to me. So Benjamin Franklin using that way before Chris Voss was, right? Ben Franklin knew how to persuade, not by being certain not to create resistance to his proposals through the use of words that trigger negative responses. All right. What's another word? A 3-letter word that triggers a negative response, right? The word but. When you use the word but, I understand what you mean, but, right? You just negated everything before the word, right? Used unconsciously and automatically, it can be one of the most destructive words in our language. Well, that's true, but yeah, you just said what you heard was not true, or that it was irrelevant. The word but negates everything that is said before it, right? What if you simply substituted the word and instead? What if you said, that's true, and here's something else that's also true? Or that's an interesting idea, and here's another way to think about it, right? In both cases, you start with agreement, but instead of creating resistance, you create an avenue of redirection. Remember, there are no resistant people, only inflexible communicators, right? Without resistance, there is no conflict, right? So if you can communicate without creating resistance, by respecting the other person that you're communicating with, you can maintain rapport and share the way you feel, and yet not resist their opinion, right? So I appreciate your point of view, right? I appreciate your point of view. I respect your point of view, or I agree, right? So I appreciate it, and, right? Remember, and instead of but, right? I respect it, and I have run across some people that will tell you, they'll use those words similar to those words, right? They say, I love you, but, right? When they throw that word, they throw that's worse. That's the B word, right? They throw that word in there, and it negates everything in front of it, right? I can appreciate, respect, and agree your feelings about something, and at the same time want you to go in a different direction, right? I can appreciate your feeling, because if I were in the same physiology as you, if I were seeing things from the same point of view as you, I would think the same way, right? I can appreciate your feeling, because if I were in the same physiology, if I had the same perception, I would feel the same way. I can appreciate your intent, right? I can appreciate your intent. I appreciate the fact that you have the best interests of your family in mind, your clients in mind. What's another way? Here's another way, and here's another way we could look at that, right? So here's an exercise, right? He says that Tony Robbins says he uses in his seminars, have two people take different sides of a question and debate it, but never use the word but, right? Never try to put down the other person's point of view, right? He says people find this a liberating experience. They learn more because they're able to appreciate the other person's point of view rather than feel like they have to destroy it, right? You can argue without getting belligerent or upset. You can make new distinctions and reach points of agreement. So try that out with somebody. Pick a topic that you can take opposite sides on and argue it precisely the way described above, right? It is a game of finding commonality and then leading in the direction that you want to go, right? Leading in the direction you want to go. Take opposite sides, right? Take opposite sides of a position, and never use the word but, right? Could you do that? What do you think? Could you make that your exercise, right? You got 3 days, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Make that your exercise for the weekend, and try it out. Try it out with a friend, a colleague, a family member, and let them know that, hey, look, let's try this, right? Let's try this exercise. On Monday, so we've agreed, right? I've agreed with you. I respect your opinion. I appreciate your point of view. And come Monday, we're going to talk about reframing that, right? The power of perspective. We try to get our point of view across to somebody else, right? Can you appreciate that? Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. The power to communicate, right? This is all about the power to communicate well with anybody else, because if you can communicate, your power is unlimited. If you can communicate effectively, right, your power is unlimited. This has been, continues to be, the Millionaire Mindset Book Club. If you know somebody else who could benefit from 15 minutes worth of brain time, I guess that's what I'll call it. 15 minutes of brain time first thing in the morning. Have them join the group, facebook.com/the Millionaire Mindset Book Club. I don't know if that actually works, but you can search Millionaire Mindset Book Club and it pops up. It's an open group, right? Anybody can join. And I appreciate your input. If you're watching this on the replay, and hopefully somebody's watching it on the replay, nobody came at 5:45. That's okay. Yeah, drop us a comment. What do you think about this chapter? Can you give us some insight into how things work for you? And if you do the exercise, we'd like to hear some feedback on that as well. So hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday morning, 5:45 a.m. or catch you on the replay. Until then, have a wonderful weekend. Make today the best day of your life so far. See you Monday.